With a track record of climbing the two highest points in the world, Everest and K2, it's still unknown how one of the world's strongest and most experienced mountaineers disappeared. But as we know, the last word always belongs to the mountain. This is the story of Scott Fischer and how his body has been on Everest for over 25 years. Scott Fischer, a 40-year-old native of Michigan who settled in Seattle, made a living out of mountaineering and leading climbing expeditions with his company Mountain Madness. In a truly American style, Fischer was also the first serious mountain climber who got turned on to climbing by a TV program that he saw while in New Jersey at the age of 14. After the show, he took climbing courses over the next 2 years. His resume, packed with achievements, including being the first American to climb the world's fourth highest peak, Laos in Nepal, and among the third party of Americans to summit K2. He had also climbed Everest 4 times, with his 5th attempt taking place in 1996. Unfortunately, this trip would be a little different. On Friday, May 10th, 1996, a severe storm trapped multiple climbers high on Everest as they descended from the summit. 8 people died in what has become the deadliest single-day tragedy in the mountain's history. One of them is the renowned Seattle climbing guide Scott Fischer. It wasn't until 2010 that his body was found near the balcony of Mount Everest. Scott Fischer founded the Mountain Madness Company in 1984 to assist climbers in reaching the peaks of the highest mountains in the world. It would cost each of them a cool $50,000 USD to go with him. The money was not the only thing he cared about, as he was also driven by the cause of keeping the world's great mountainsides clean. In 1994, he headed up the Everest Environmental Program, a project designed to collect waste that had been gathering for over 40 years. His team removed 250 oxygen bottles and over 5,000 pounds of trash from the mountain. Fast forwarding to 1996, Fischer was preparing for his 5th trek to Everest, and confident as usual, he told a reporter from the Seattle Weekly that he was positive he would return, stating that it doesn't count if you don't make it back down. His confidence, however, was not misguided. Scott Fischer was highly experienced and had a knack for keeping all the variables in mind and protecting his team during expeditions. For his 5th expedition, Fischer guided a group of clients up the mountain, assisted by Neal Beidleman and Anatoli Boukreev, 2 of the most elite climbers in the world. Fischer planned carefully for the ascent that year. Checking historical weather records for Everest, his research showed that the window between May 5th and 12th offered the best conditions for making a summit push. On May 10th, 1996, Scott Fischer, Neal Beidleman, and Anatoli Boukreev led their 8 clients up the mountain to the summit of Everest. Although 11 climbers went up the mountain, only 10 of them returned. Fischer died that day during one of Everest's darkest times, at 29,035 feet high in the jet stream, where only a third of the oxygen is available at sea level. The team was hit by a strong snowstorm. After the team's ascent, all of the climbers reached Camp 4 at 7,900 meters, except for Fischer. He had reached the summit at about 3:45 p.m. and was having considerable difficulties in his descent. With him was his Sirdar Lapsang Jangbu. However, just below the south peak, he was unable to continue and convinced him to descend without him. He left Fischer and went down, hoping to be able to send someone with oxygen to help him down the mountain. After reaching Camp 4 with his clients, Boukreev made several attempts to reach Fischer, but was forced to turn back due to bad weather. Finally, around 7 a.m. on May 11th, Boukreev managed to find Fischer. Unfortunately, it was already too late. Fischer was dead. Anatoli tried to retrieve his friend's body, but it was impossible. Instead, he secured his backpack over his face and left him on the ledge where he lay. He then retrieved his camera, ice axe, and favorite penknife, which would be delivered to Fischer's 9-year-old son upon Beidleman's return. In May 2010, Fischer's body was discovered. However, his family requested his body stay where it was, so it could spend eternity in the mountains he so dearly loved. Some still wonder how a man so experienced died on Everest. Climbers claim that Scott became exhausted by repeatedly climbing from camp to camp to handle his clients. This may be true, but another explanation is that he finally succumbed to acute altitude sickness. This is thought to be the reason he died on the mountain, as numerous climbers stated that Scott was visibly tired and could not even speak to them when they passed by. It is said that a combination of high altitude sickness and the treacherous storm inevitably brought him to his demise. During the last few hours of his life, he was engulfed in a devastating storm that covered Everest's upper slopes. He was attempting to find refuge as he rappelled down and continued to the southeast ridge, making his way to the flat 8,430 meter platform known as the balcony. At this point, his only hope of survival was to reach the relative safety of Camp 4, 450 meters below at the south col. Dazed and confused, he eventually collapsed on the snow about 50 meters below the balcony. A few moments later, disoriented by cerebral edema and hypothermia, Fischer ripped off his oxygen mask and gloves and opened his down jacket. Exposed and alone on the mountain, Fischer deteriorated over the following 15 hours, where death finally caught up to him just below the balcony.